I'm back. I'm going to talk about some myths. A lot of you guys that follow me might not know what a blue pill is. Okay, so the basic idea, you can look it up or search, but blue pilled ideas are fantasy ideas about relationships. Okay, so just look at it like that. All right, so I'm going to do a series of these. Keep them real short. Try to keep them under 5 minutes, just to dispel some of these myths that are out there regarding sexual dynamics, intergender dynamics, and relationships, and attractiveness, and all that topic. Okay, there's a bunch of myths regarding it, and so we'll start here. This is the myth of the one or one-itis. Okay, so what that is this idea that it's a mythical, spiritual idea for some, that there is only one person out there for another person. So it's this idea that, there's one. So there's one woman out there for me, and that's it. Or there's one guy out there for you. And it's actually a real dangerous myth, because if a guy thinks that he is with his one, okay, and she happens to be, let's say, really abusive or has a lot of problems, he won't walk away from that scenario like he should. If he thinks that she's the only one, he'll be afraid or reluctant to set standards, fearful of losing her. You know what I mean? And that works the other way around, female to male too. So it is actually can be damaging, this myth, which is why it's important to start here and dispel it. So here's the thing. You have 7 billion people out there. There is no proof anywhere. And even in religious texts, they don't talk about that. They talk about becoming one in terms of a marriage to become one, but they're not talking about this predestined thing where one person was made for you. Okay. So here's how the one works, all right? Here's how it works, is that you have two people that are highly compatible with each other, all right? So their genetic makeup, how they were made, they're just very compatible. They come together very well, okay? Both in a relationship, sexually, all that stuff. Now, as they build experiences over the years, as they grow together, provided that it's not a situation where that, as in most relationships, where the enthusiasm dies off after 6 months to 2 years, they stay enthused with each other due to things that they're doing in that relationship to manage it, and they continue kind of on a course together. All right, so they do that, and let's say they have a lot of experience together. Let's say a couple years, let's say maybe even 10 years. Okay, well, there are no two people exactly alike, so that relationship is unique in and of itself. If you've married someone and you're with that person for 10 years, there'll never be another person like that person, right? You'll never have another relationship exactly like what you have. So in that sense, there is a uniqueness there. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't have had that with someone else, couldn't have had something worse or better with someone else. It doesn't mean that if your partner decides to change the terms of that relationship contract and do things that are unacceptable and below your standards and below what you'd be willing to accept, treat you of lower value, that sort of thing, it doesn't mean that, gosh, you know what, you better stick with this relationship because she is the one, right? You could, that if it's not continuing to work and the person is not behaving within your standards and you walk away from that, that definitely doesn't mean that you can't turn around and have a different relationship or a better relationship in the future. Now, of course, if you're in a monogamous relationship, that's not your hope and that's not what you're looking to go do. But to understand, though, just because you have a unique relationship with this one person, that doesn't mean like, you know, God or Odin or Cupid or the relationship spirits blessed that unions in such a way where you'll never have anything else ever again. That's just not how it works, okay? And certainly there was no predestination either, where like you met somebody that you were highly compatible with, you both jumped on that opportunity to be together. But that being said, you could have just as easily looked to jump on an opportunity to be with someone else. And maybe that would have worked better if you were with that other person. Maybe it would have worked worse, you know? Women tend to know, though, when they jump on a relationship, whether they're getting in with their best sexual option or not. And if they're questioning that, then the answer is probably no. Unfortunately, a lot of women settle with less than their best sexual option due to resource concerns, baby making concerns, and other things. But that's a topic for another video. Whether you're settling with somebody who's less than what your best option would be, okay? But anyway, that being said, there definitely isn't a one-nightus here, okay? You are choosing to be with somebody, and they are unique. Your relationship is unique, but there is no predestination there. If that person is not meeting the standards, and when I say meeting the standards, I mean of treatment and behavior, and you have to let them go, you have to break up, move on. That doesn't mean you're destroyed forever, because that was your one, and so forth. Okay, that's where the myth is. I don't know if there's more I could talk about on that, but that's kind of the basics, I think, of what needs to be said about that. So don't latch onto that myth. Oh yeah, I remember. When you don't have a myth of the one, and when you're not ascribing to some fantasy belief that this person was created for you and you only, and so forth, this predestined idea, it actually is a lot better in terms of, you know, attractiveness in your choices, because that means what it means is when you choose to be with that person, you're choosing to be with them among a whole bunch of other potential options and a whole bunch of other choices. You're making that choice on a daily basis. You could choose somebody else, but you don't. You choose her. That is way better. That is way more of a higher value attraction. You know, and vice versa is true. She's choosing you. That's a higher value of attraction than feeling like you're stuck with somebody because that's the one person that you're supposed to be with. So, just because this is a myth and I'm dispelling it, people like to, when you bust somebody's myths or their paradigms, things that they've been taught or told, they like to go negative immediately and become nihilistic about it. You know what I mean? Well, if she's not the only one for me, well, I guess, you know, like, I guess it's not special, you know, and it's, or whatever, they want to reason themselves out. It's not that way. You know, you don't have to think in this automatically negative paradigm just because your belief system was bullshit, okay? A lot of times reality, depending on how you look at reality and how you and what you do with that reality, is much better than the fantasy. And in this case, I would say that's true. The fact that I choose to be with my partner on a daily basis, choose her among a lot of other options, is worth way more than if I felt like I had to be with her because she was the one I'm supposed to be with. And so that is the positive side. And if she is ascribing to the same idea, you know, that's a good thing. That means she's not negotiating her attraction for you. That it's genuine, right? So there's a myth that can lead to a lot of harm, and hopefully that makes sense to those of you who will listen to this. Have a great evening.